Yes, welcome into Sportsbook. Betting Insight today, Pauly and Teddy. Monday, March 6th, big game breakdown, a good one. Heat and the Cavs, the rematch, plus the Rockets and the Spurs. Deep dive. Here we go, ACC tournament preview, and we'll give out some picks with the play of the day in that one. Bad beats, bad bets, bad for the books. A bad beat here with a money line and the under. Sacramento plus 425 on the money line. They're up 6 with 38 seconds. And the total was bet down from 196 to 191. You never want the dog in overtime, and the Kings fell apart late, Teddy.
Well, I mean, Sacramento still got the money on the point spread, but if you had any money line in your pocket, they were the right side in that game. They were up by 13 in the fourth, as you mentioned, up by 6 with under 40 seconds to go. And I don't know if you saw the play that won this game for Utah. An air ball by George Hill and Rudy Gobert just unbelievably avoids both the goaltending and gets it in just before the buzzer lands, but that was just brutal. Bad beat if you had the under. Brutal beat if you had Sacramento on the money line. That's one you're supposed to cash.
Yeah, bad bet. The Wizards steam here. Bet up from 10.5 to 12.5 against Orlando. They win 115 to 114. They trailed by 17 with 2:40 left in the third quarter. Another big game off the bench for Bojan Bogdanovic, 27 points in 21 minutes. I mean, a huge comeback for the Wizards and a melt by Orlando.
Sure, but Washington never sniffed a point spread cover in that ballgame. I was shocked to see the money coming in on the Wizards. Again, they were bet up from 10.5 to 12.5 in the mother of all flat spots. They're coming off a huge 3-game set. Warriors and home with the Raptors. And then coming up, not one, but 2 different 5-game road trips, including the one that starts this week. They were clearly not focused on beating Orlando by margin. The fact they won the game was impressive. But minus 12.5, yeah, you were betting Washington. You had a bad bet.
Yeah, here we go with a bet for the books. They were betting Iowa up to 7.5 against Penn State. They have played their way onto the bubble. They win by 11.
Yeah, and I'll tell you what. There were a bunch of bad results for the books on Sunday in college basketball. This just one of them. I mean, the markets were ready to play against Penn State. Road team, final game, knowing that their first Big Ten tournament game in Washington is on Wednesday. I mean, Nittany Lions fell behind by as many as 27 in that ballgame. And Peter Jok, as you mentioned, 21 points in 21 minutes on senior day, got the early bow out with a big lead. And as Hawkeyes, 4-0 straight up, 4-0 against the spread, their last 4 going in to the Big Ten tournament.
There's some more. Cincinnati on the road bet up from 5 to 7 against Connecticut. They drill them by 20. UConn with a no-show in Wisconsin. They take money again. Bet up from 6.5 to 8 at home against Minnesota. They win by 17.
Yeah, I mean, the market perception was that UConn was going to be a no-show. And I'll tell you what, that game was over like 5 minutes in. The Huskies were down 17-5 early, and they were never in the hunt. Let's not forget they host the conference tournament next weekend. As for Wisconsin, I mean, it was a classic senior moment for Bronson Koenig. You know, he had 3 3-pointers, one with 3 minutes left, another one with 2.5, and another one with 2 minutes left, and it just broke a tight game wide open. But with a 39-20 run out by Wisconsin in the second half of that game, and Koenig, a huge part of it.
All right, here we go. Bids so far, Jacksonville State, Belmont, the 1 seed goes down. They lost 1 game in conference, and they were 1 and done for the second year in a row. They get a bye in that league into the semis. They lose again. Winthrop, a rare 1 seed that wins. They're dancing. Florida Gulf Coast, Dunk City's back for the second year in a row, and the only 15 seed to make the Sweet 16. And Wichita State, they're on a mission. They drub Illinois State and win the Valley.
Yeah, that was an impressive performance on Sunday from Wichita State. It really was. That team, a mission might be the right word. Wichita State saying, hey guys, take us seriously in this world where the Zags are the only mid-major that's attracting any oxygen.
Well, it was crazy over the weekend too, Teddy. I mean, Monmouth blew a 17-point lead in the second half as Siena scored 64 points in the second half. Oakland, how about that melt against Youngstown State, a horrible team, and they fall asleep and Youngstown State lays it in at the buzzer as Oakland goes. I mean, the 1 seeds, a lot of them went down over the weekend.
Well, the one thing, I mean, Siena's playing on their home court, and Oakland doesn't play a lick of defense, you know. So those are the type of things that we look for and concern ourselves with when it comes to conference tournaments time. We're going to talk a lot about how to make money conference tournaments this week, including the ACC preview today and deep dive tomorrow and maybe Wednesday. I think it'll be a 2-parter in an overall overview on how to beat conference tournaments.
All right, they played over the weekend. It was ugly. Now LeBron and Kyrie will play. We'll get to the Heat and the Cavs and the Rockets and Spurs up next on Big Game Breakdown on Sportsbook. Betting Insight today on SBRpicks.com.
Go to SBRodds.com. Browse, compare, and shop live odds available at top online sportsbooks.
Back on Sportsbook Betting Insight today, Pauly and Teddy. Follow us on Twitter at Pauly Howard at Teddy_covers. Big Game Breakdown. Association tonight. Heat and the Cavs. Cavs 8, 2-15. Rematch is Saturday. Well, not really. Miami won 120-92. No LeBron and Kyrie. J.R. Smith causing problems on the bench. And Teddy, with the point spread hijinks in this one, where it was Cleveland was a small favorite on the road, then word leaks out, and then and then people just come right in, all in on the Heat, and they go off at 8.5 point favorite, and they rout the Cavs, who still haven't won a game without LeBron.
Yeah, and I mean, the money should come in that way when it's announced that LeBron and Kyrie are sitting, because when it's announced that LeBron is sitting or Kyrie is sitting, Cleveland takes the night off. They've done it half a dozen times already this season. So, I mean, it's good for the Cavs. Those guys get a night off. They need a little bit of rest. But it's bad for the Cavs in the sense that by giving their stars a night off, it was so easy for the Heat that the Miami starters only played 110 minutes out of a possible 240. That leaves them a little bit fresher for the rematch as well. Goran Dragic continued his incredible run. I don't know, incredible run, but he's been playing at a really high level for Miami throughout, basically since the calendar turned to 2017. He went right past the Cavs defense. 23 points, 5 assists, and just 24 minutes of work.
Who has the best record in the NBA since the middle of January? The Miami Heat. And they were a game and a half back at Detroit for the 8th seed in the East. Not time to panic, but again, they lost a tough game yesterday at the buzzer. The Celtics lose, but that leads down to 3 for the 1 seed in the East with Cleveland too, Teddy. We like D'Antoni, but the guys were talking, Jackson and Van Gundy were discussing it. How about Spoelstra, Coach of the Year?
Oh, I don't think there's any question. If I'm voting, Spoelstra would be, not even maybe, he's my Coach of the Year. I mean, period, at this stage of the campaign. And frankly, if Miami lost every game the rest of the way, Spoelstra still might be my Coach of the Year. For as much as D'Antoni has done, as much as we like what Fizdale's done in Memphis, I mean, when you look at Miami, a team that was on pace to be one of the 3 or 4 worst teams in the NBA, and the turnaround they had to be a game and a half out of the 8th seed right now, it's incredible. Of course, as you mentioned, the Cleveland lead is down to 3 in the East, even that Boston did lose on that buzzer beater to Tyler Ulis on Sunday. But, you know, it's not about the regular season for the Cavs. They're telling us that in all different ways. Tyronn Lue, the quote, he, LeBron James, understands the bigger picture of what we're trying to accomplish. The guy's played so many minutes over the course of his career. He's made 6 straight finals. He has to take some rest at times. Of course, we're talking about the same coach that LeBron on the floor for 37.6 minutes per game when he does play, second in the NBA only to Kyle Lowry at 37.7. And gee, Kyle Lowry's hurt right now, although Andrew Bogut going to make his Cavs debut tonight. They'll need him for Hassan Whiteside. Whiteside was absolutely dominated Tristan Thompson on Saturday. 20 points and 13 rebounds in just 28 minutes of work.
All right, game number 2, liveoddsportsbookreview.com. Hell of a game here. Rockets and the Spurs, San Antonio, Spurs 4, 220.5 the total. Could be a matchup in the second round. I don't think the Spurs will catch the Warriors for the 1 seed, and I don't think they'll win the division. I wish they would. I got them 16-1. But in any event, the Rockets still trying to catch San Antonio. Road team has won all 3 so far. November 9th, Houston plus 10.5 won 101-99. November 12th, the Spurs were 1.5. They won 106-100, and this was a total meltdown. December 20th, Spurs were plus 1. They won 102-100. The Rockets led by 13 with 4 minutes left at home, and they blew it. All 3 games have gone under, and battle for the pace in this one. Teddy, you want to see Houston wants to go up, 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 and San Antonio wants to slow it down.
Well, sure. I mean, we've seen it very clearly in all 3 meetings. Look at the total here. We got a total of 220. And in all 3 meetings, we've seen the San Antonio Spurs control the pace by an average of more than 8 points per game against the closing number. And you talk about that battle of pace. I mean, since the All-Star break, Houston's gotten even faster. You know, the Spurs continue to play slow. And number 26 in the NBA for the full season, number 26 for the since the break for the Rockets, and number 4 for the full season, number 2. But you have to expect Houston in a grinder in this type of contest, just like the first meetings have been. And obviously, that particular pace has not necessarily suited the Rockets particularly well, especially when we talk about that meltdown. But I'll tell you what, I mean, Houston knows what they're going to get from the point guard position. The Spurs don't right now. Tony Parker stinks.
Yep, you're right. Back-to-back, they had to go overtime with New Orleans and Minnesota. How about that? They've been able to put away the T-Wolves the last two home games when they met the T-Wolves at home, rather. Parker only 3 of 12, 6 assists, 4 turnovers, plus 18 with him on the bench. Minus 8 with him on the floor in those games. He sat out one game prior to that as he was banged up. Harden post-break. I mean, I love this team. They only have one loss since the break with the Lou Williams trade, and that's when they couldn't buy a shot. They just was one of those off nights where nobody could shoot in the loss at home to Indiana. But look at this. The offense pre-break, 111 points per 100 possessions. Post-break, 119.6. Harden field goals per 48, 24.8 per break, 19.6 post-break. And adding Lou Williams is huge. Another guy that can score, and the number one guy in the league off the bench. They have number one, number two with Williams and Gordon.
Yeah, I mean, call me a Rockets believer. And it's the kind of thing that's built on me and grown on me over the course of the season. You watch them play. You watch the defense. You watch their hands and how quick they are. You watch you read the opposing quotes from coaches and players who Houston's just beaten. You say, man, maybe this team can do it. And, of course, I mean, the safest bet out there, the Rockets to finish third in the West. You know, they're 5 games behind San Antonio for number 2, and they're 5 games ahead of Utah for number 4. So Houston's going to finish with the 3 seed. The question is whether the Spurs can catch Golden State with the Warriors' recent slump on this East Coast trip. And there's only a 2.5 game difference between the two right now. But, I mean, I'm with you. I don't see Golden State blowing that lead, even if they have some injury concerns with the Kevin Durant problem.
Well, we know what Pop will do. He prefers the rest over chasing the 1 seed. He's going to want these guys rested going into the playoffs. All right, rapid fire. We can't do all these games, but in any event, here in Las Vegas, the 2 semifinals, West Coast Conference tonight, and 3 more bids go out. Let's start in the West Coast. I saw the Zags minus 20 against Santa Clara. They won 90-55 and 88-57 in the regular season. Check the status of the Broncos point guard who has a concussion.
Yeah, I mean, the 2 games in the regular season were absolute annihilations. And, of course, Santa Clara to get here, let's see, they beat San Fran. They allowed 50% shooting. They were out-rebounded by 9 in that ballgame. But there were 19 Don's turnovers. Santa Clara, the Bronx were hitting from three-point range, 50% from the line, and 20 of 23 from the charity stripe. That's what it took to get here. Each of the last 7 meetings between the Zags and the Broncos has gone over the total. Santa Clara slows some teams down, not Gonzaga.
All right, this tips at about 8:45 Pacific. St. Mary's and BYU, the other semifinal. St. Mary's 7, 142 the total, and they've been able to handle. BYU doesn't like to play that slow pace, and St. Mary's gives them fits, Teddy.
Yeah, I mean, the Cougs 5-1 the last 6, including the win at Gonzaga as 21-point underdogs. Their only loss during that span, at home, 70-57 to St. Mary's. And the Gales played it at their pace. You know, they were minus 4.5 in that game. They were the Gales minus 10.5 at home against BYU. They won and covered that one as well. Worth noting, BYU has only 2 point spread covers as a dog all year. One of them came in that win against Gonzaga.
More 3 auto bids tonight. 3 more teams punched their tickets in the Metro Atlantic. Siena and Iona. No line on Siena's home floor, as you mentioned, which is complete bullshit. It's 17-16 against 21-12. Siena may have shot their load. They couldn't miss in the second half against Monmouth, and again scored 64 points in the second half. In the Southern Conference, good game. East Tennessee State against UNC Greensboro in Asheville. No line on that one. That's a 1 seed against a 3 seed. And what a game this will be. The Colonial Athletic Association, College of Charleston against UNC Wilmington. Wilmington's got 28 wins. But again, the game's in Charleston. Wilmington just played a perfect game. They scored 105 points yesterday in the semifinal win against Bill and Mary. Charleston beat Wilmington on their home floor. Could be a shootout. Going to be a hell of a game. I hope Wilmington's able to win in advance. Could be a Sweet 16 team. Got to win tonight, though.
Yeah, sure. And again, you're one of these guys. You're a purist. You hate it when the best team in a conference goes down and that team gets relegated to the NIT. I don't always mind that because then you make some money betting on them in the NIT. But it's that time right now where there's going to be college basketball morning, noon, and night, basically all week long and into next week. Expect a lot of hardcore college basketball coverage from a point spread perspective right here on Sportsbook. And of course, the 3 games that you previewed that we don't have lines for, those lines will be up early in the morning. We do the show in the overnight hours. That means no early lines for some of these conference tournament games, unfortunately.
All right, up next, the deep dive, the ACC tournament preview. We'll give out some dogs in this one. How many can make the big dance, too? This will be fun up next. Great information on Sportsbit. Betting Insight today on SBRPicks.com.
Research before you bet. Be sure to check out SBR Picks for the best game predictions, breakdowns, and much, much more.
Back on Sportsbit, Betting Insight today. Time for the deep dive. ACC tournament preview starts Tuesday at Barclays. How good has this conference been? Top 50 teams. Ken Palm got 11, 4 in the top 10. Sagarin 11, 3 in the top 10. How many can make the big dance? I think 10, maybe 11 if Georgia Tech can make a run as well. And some of the best coaches in the sport may not want this one at all, though, Teddy.
Well, that's the best thing about the ACC tournament, and that's why we wanted to focus and highlight this tournament in particular, because many of the points that we want to make about all conference tournaments or all the major conference tournaments apply to the ACC. We get some great talking points we can use here with this one. Yeah, we're talking about a loaded conference. Both Pomeroy and Sagarin have 11 teams in the top 50. And who knows, 8 bids, 9 bids, 10 bids, 11 bids, crazier things have happened. But when you talk about a conference that is this deep and this loaded, and you're talking about teams like Duke and North Carolina, who, quite frankly, have bigger fish to fry than the ACC tournament, teams that legitimately are searching for a national title, guess what? Duke ain't winning this tournament, and North Carolina ain't winning this tournament. We have 2 coaches that aren't likely to bring their A game at any point. Look, Roy Williams has never cared for the past. The old joke is Roy Williams got a tee time on Saturday. He doesn't want to play in the tournament. And then, of course, they beat Duke, rallied from behind to beat the Blue Devils over the weekend. They got the regular season title. They got revenge. Mission accomplished for North Carolina. Nothing to prove this week. Coach K, the Duke team, once again, doesn't have any depth. It's going to take 4 games in 4 days to need it to win this tournament. And they might have to play Louisville and North Carolina back-to-back just to get to the finals. Does Coach K want to win this? He does not. I'm telling you, Duke, North Carolina, 2 teams at the very top, all the hype. We're not going to see a Duke-North Carolina final. I'd be surprised if either one makes it that far.
All right, how about a sleeper then? And there's a lot of sleepers because this conference is so deep. Look at the 8-9 game with Syracuse in Miami. And then you have Wake Forest who's sitting there. And I wasn't, what are they, the 10? I wasn't sold on Wake Forest, but look how well they are playing down the stretch. They won at Virginia Tech. They beat Louisville. They really helped out their resume. And once they take care of BC on Tuesday, it's a rematch against Virginia Tech. And then maybe you get Florida State, which could be a track meet. Things could really open up, and Wake Forest could make a run here.
Yeah, if you're looking for one of the lower-seeded teams and one of the deep sleepers, I would certainly take a look at the Demon Deacons because, again, they're a young squad. They're coming together at the right time. They played their best basketball in recent weeks. And from a confidence standpoint, they're at a level now that they weren't a month or 2 ago. And, as you mentioned, some of the favorites are going to be facing may well be vulnerable. So Wake would be the deep sleeper, but I think there are 2 teams that I'd rather bet on before Wake Forest for 2 reasons. 1, they have depth. 2, they have desire. And not that Wake doesn't have depth or desire, but I think these 2 teams a little bit better than Wake. Although, as you mentioned, if it comes down to a Wake-Florida State track meet, that'd be a fun game to watch, and Wake might be live in that one.
What do we make of Notre Dame? Who got off to a great start, hit a rough patch in the middle, and then closed strong as well. They lost a tough game at Louisville, where if they won that game, Notre Dame would have been the 2 seed in this conference.
Sure, but Notre Dame isn't built to win 4 games in 4 days. Not that type of squad. Again, we want teams that are deep and hungry. And I've talked about that I was going to give them Florida State and Louisville. Really, that's the 2 teams where the depth is there and the hunger is there and the style of play is there, Pauly. So, again, you look at the conference tournament bracket, and you see reasonable paths for teams that aren't named Duke and North Carolina. You look and you say to yourself, yeah, maybe these guys are alive. Unfortunately, we don't have lines to talk about right now for the ACC tournament. But, Pauly, certainly for play of the day standpoint, Florida State, Louisville, two teams we want to look at real hard to win the ACC tournament. And again, you're not looking at 2-1. You're not looking at plus 250. You should get reasonable returns on both of these squads. And I think that's the way to bet the ACC tournament from a future standpoint.
All right, very good. Tuesday and Wednesday, conference tourney betting strategies, Teddy. Part 1 tomorrow.
Oh, yeah, it's going to be a lot of fun. But let's make it very clear. That's play of the day material. Florida State and Louisville, two separate bets. We're going to split it in half and use those two teams to win the ACC tournament. I think they're both live to make some noise. Yeah, deep dive tomorrow. Conference tournament betting strategies. We got a part 1 and a part 2. Hopefully this brief overview today on the ACC will give you an idea of some of the concepts we're looking at a broader perspective when we analyze these conference tournaments. Because I'm telling you, Pauly, there's no better week to bet college basketball than this week. The March Madness and the big dance and all of that, it's great for excitement, but in terms of sheer number of contests, in terms of 15 hours every day of college basketball betting action, man, Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday, Friday, get ready. This week is a blast.
You got it. Out here, it's 9 a.m. to midnight on the West Coast with the Thursday and Friday nights. It's crazy. All right, we'll talk to you tomorrow. Thanks for watching. It's going to be wild the next couple weeks here on Sportsbit. Betting Insight today on SBRPicks.com.